so we are going to start with the drizzle, and there are just 4 ingredients. You have peppercorns, and that's black pepper that hasn't yet been crushed. We have our salt, and again I'm using Inca salt, but you can use Himalayan salt. These salts have a lot more minerals in them, and over the course of the 5 months we will review all of that. We'll discuss all of that. And of course our olive oil, which we have cold pressed. Remember, cold pressed means that it is raw. And garlic. The garlic is our last ingredient. So this is a whole garlic clove. I won't use all of it, but we'll use some of it. And so the next step, now that I've shown you the ingredients, is we're going to cut up some of the garlic. So I'll just take a couple of the cloves off. And what I do then to open it is I just press it with my hand and it cracks it right open. It cracks that peel right open. And then you can take it right off. It comes off easily. And there you have your garlic clove, your fresh garlic clove. Wow, it just smells delicious. And these cloves, they are organic. I buy organic whenever I can. There's usually, I've found a couple times a year when I'm not able to get organic garlic, and maybe a couple times when I'm not able to get organic jalapenos. But other than that, everything that I buy is organic. Okay, so I've just cut a couple more, and I already have some of the garlic that's sliced, so I think that will be enough. This is 4 small pieces. These pieces are much larger than the pieces that I cut up. But you'll want to have either 8 medium pieces. A medium piece would be half the size of this, or 4 large pieces. And then I'm just going to slice the garlic. And if any of you are younger who are doing this, please have your mom and dad do the slicing. Delicious. It smells delicious. Fresh garlic. Oh my goodness. I didn't grow up cooking, so it was a process. I went to a friend's house for Thanksgiving one year, and she made 22 homemade dishes, and so that was when I taught myself to cook. Okay, so that is the garlic. This is the size of the pieces that we're cutting. And oh my goodness, I have such a delicious Thanksgiving recipe for those of you who celebrate Thanksgiving. For those who don't, it's still delicious, and we'll make it. And I like to create my own holidays, so we can just decide. It can be a celebration for day 40 or 50 that we decide to make that meal, but it is delicious and savory and satisfying. And then the fresh peppercorns, this is how they look prior to grinding them. And then I have my mortar, and I have some in here that have been grinded up. I just used the pestle. This is a mortar that I got when I was in Thailand, so I really like that. And then here's some of the salt, the Himalayan salt. So I like to use the small mason jar for this, because when I pour the olive oil in it, I leave it in here. So I like the small mason jar. And you'll pour about a half cup of olive oil, and then you'll put your garlic in, and I'll end up adding more olive oil just because of the amount of garlic that I'm using. But because I'm using this for the fish, I wanted to put more garlic in. If I were just doing this as a salad dressing, I wouldn't put as much garlic in here. But yeah, I want to make sure that we have enough of the garlic. And it's to taste. I mean, some of you may not want as much garlic. And then when you're putting this on the fish, you don't have to scoop large spoonfuls of the garlic, but it just flavors the olive oil so beautifully. Okay, so that's that. And then we have our fresh peppercorn. I just put in there as well. And the peppercorn, that's about, I'm going to say, 1/8 of a teaspoon of peppercorn. And then salt to taste. So I'm going to put Just a pinch of salt. And with the salt, I always try to be a little conservative because you can always add more. And so I'm a little conservative with salt. And that's it, that's our drizzle. And then you'll put the lid on. That's our drizzle. I'm going to shake it just a little bit just to make sure that the pepper and the Inca salt mix in with the garlic. But that's our drizzle. This I will let sit, and we are putting it on the coconut fish, but I'll just let this sit out. I normally just put it in a cabinet and maybe for a day or two just to let just to let it really get the flavors in there. But then I'll put that, you can put it in a refrigerator. But this is our drizzle, and it's very easy to make and it's delicious. Okay everyone, we are ready to make our fish. We have our drizzle that will go on top of the fish. And for this recipe, we just need 3 simple ingredients. The first is the drizzle that we just made. The second is a raw coconut, which we have here. And the third, which is optional, is crushed red pepper. I like to add pepper to foods that I eat. I like a little bit of spice. If the spice is too much for you, then just leave that out. This is optional, but definitely something for those of us who like spicy. We also have a glass, and this is what we'll use to pour the coconut water into. I like to use a pretty glass. We have a bowl. This is what we'll put the fish in and then pour the drizzle on when it's in the bowl. And a spill bucket, of course, that we always want to have. And then a spoon, a knife, and a spatula. And first, what I want to do is open the coconut. And remember, I showed you the opening of the coconut when we made ice cream on day 1. And so again, I had this opened at this store, and you can do that where they sell fresh coconuts. You can just ask the produce manager if they can open the coconut for you, and they will. So this is what they did. They just opened the lid. So this is the lid from it, or the top. It looks like a little hat. And then we have our coconut water inside, which I will pour. If you want to see that, it's really full to the top. So I'll pour that into a really nice glass. Okay, that's our coconut water, and this is delicious. I'll drink this probably tonight or tomorrow morning. And then we have the coconut meat. We have some on the lid and some inside as well. It lines the inside. So now what we'll do is we'll score the inside 4 times. So from the very middle center point all the way to the top, and we'll do that in 4 different areas, equidistant apart. That's the first thing. And you can score it with a butter knife. It's not hard to get through the meat. And so I have a butter knife, so I'll just put the knife in the very centermost point of the coconut, so the very bottom center, and then I just bring it up along the edge all the way up to the top. You want to make sure you have a nice line that goes all the way through it. So that's 1. I'll do another. That's 2, 3. Looks like 3 might be enough, but we'll do 4. And there's 4. Okay, so now we take our spoon, and I use a larger spoon for this, and you're just going to go along the edge of the husk and just separate the meat of the coconut from the shell. And this coconut has really good thick meat, so I'm glad. And you'll find that coconuts have different amounts of meat. It's just like apples, how some apples are larger than others. They're not all one standard size. So some coconuts have a really thick meat, some have a thinner meat, some were allowed to mature longer, some were picked when they were younger. Okay, so there's our first piece of meat from the coconut. And you just continue along until you get all of the pieces out. That's our second piece of meat. And now for the lid. And when we do the lid, you'll actually be able to see how closely I keep the spoon to the shell of the coconut. just so that we can keep the meat intact. So there you are. That's our meat from our coconut. You can see inside of the coconut, it's empty now. There's the lid. Close that little guy up and put it in our spill basket. And then what you want to do is clean the meat. You'll have pieces of the shell on the coconut meat, so you want to get that off. So now you see we have our coconut and it's all clean. You want to rinse it. Once you get all of the shell, the husk off of the meat, you want to rinse it. And so now we have our nice clean coconut. And so now we'll get our bowl and you'll place the coconut inside. And then we will get our shelf from the dehydrator here. And you'll lay the piece of coconut on, and then we'll add our drizzle. And again, this is coconut, it's a fruit, so this doesn't need to marinate. You can marinate it if you want to, if you just want to have the sensation of marinating, but it doesn't need to marinate. You just put it on and then put it in your food dehydrator. So, and you want to make sure to get nice pieces of the garlic in there, the pepper. You just lay it on there. And that's it, and we'll do that for each of the pieces of the meat. So there we have it, and that's our coconut with some of our drizzle, and I am going to put some crushed red pepper. Whoop! I am going to put some crushed red pepper on mine, and we will put our fish inside, and that's it. So I will set this for 45 minutes and then I'll take it out. If you want it to be a little drier, then definitely set it for longer. You can set it up to 3 hours. I don't want it crunchy, but you know the texture and the moisture that you like to have it. I just want to get it a little bit warm, and it's nice and quick. Now with the fish, you can have a side salad with that. You can have, we made the dessert the other day, the ice cream if you want to have dessert with it. But this is very satiating. You can even use some of this meat and you can put it on the salad. It just makes it even more filling there. Then when you have the avocado and the fish, you are just very satiated. So you can do that as well. But this is delicious on its own, and I always do a side with it. If you enjoy.